Now, I never wanted to be a golf instructor. I wanted to play out on tour. I wasn't good enough to play out on tour, but I was good enough to figure out some stuff that really improved my game, allowed me to play at a much better level than I had ever played at. And then when I started teaching it, I really couldn't believe how every student was having this significant improvement. Cutting handicaps in half was a piece of cake, and typically it's an 18 that goes down to a 6 handicap. And so that's why I teach golf. It's basically because what I teach is really easy for golfers to improve with. Now, I know what's popularly being taught, and it is very difficult to get golfers to improve with a lot of the complex techniques that are being taught right now in golf and since the beginning of time in golf. What I discovered was there's a really simple way that everybody can play beautiful golf and be able to do it over and over again, all by presetting the movements in the setup position and focusing on keeping your weight still during the swing. Like really simple fundamentals. Now, like I said, I didn't want to teach golf. So I wouldn't be doing this if it was difficult for me to make golfers better. No chance. I would do something else with my life. The reason why I do this is because my students do not have to be perfect, and they will play the best golf of their lives. This is not a thread the needle situation where you have to make perfect movements in the swing over and over again. And I've watched this now for 30 years. Beginner golfers, experienced golfers, expert golfers, high handicaps, low handicaps. It's never been a problem for golfers to be able to pretty easily, relatively easily execute the swing I teach. So I would like to take you through what I would consider to be like an evolutionary chart of examples of the swing that I teach and the technique that I teach, all the way from rudimentary and lack flexibility, advancing all the way through the average golfer to then the better than average golfer, and then more of an expert level of the swing. And I'm just going to show you that all these swings are using the same principles. I'm going to keep my weight in a majority on my lead foot, and my swing path is going to be shallow so that my shoulders are going to be closed at and through impact. Now, on the most rudimentary level, I get it. We all have different capacities, different athletic abilities, different strength levels. On the most rudimentary level, the setup position is the first asset the golfer has to being able to keep their weight on their lead foot and keep their chest closed through impact to create the shallow swing path. So watch me here. I'm going to make an effort to portray a more beginner, less coordinated, less golf acumen type golfer. And what we're going to see is that the shot will still be functional. So the one thing that doesn't change is the setup position. Regardless of your coordination, regardless of your flexibility, everyone can do this. I pivot, and then I grip and sole the club after I make the pivot in the setup position. Now what that does is it attaches my hands to the club in a way that coordinates with the rest of my body. Now when I do that, notice, trail elbow tucks up into the body. That's something that the traditional swing is always trying to get you to do. I do it in the setup. That way it can stay there. I don't have to find it during the swing. And now watch me. I'm going to keep my weight anchored on my lead foot. I'm going to make a very rudimentary effort at the swing. Now that shot there is an 8-iron that's going 110 yards. It's got a little draw to it. So now once this golfer is working on it and they start to get a better sense and they develop a little more acumen, all of a sudden they're going to start to let the club pull them around to a finish. And instead of the arms buckling in with a chicken wing, they're now going to let the weight of the club pull them into the finish. The finish won't be very dynamic, but it'll now start to have a little more golf appropriate positioning in the finish. And it's all about letting the weight of the club pull me into that finish. So watch me here. Same setup position. Now I let the club pull me around, the contact improves, the ball goes maybe 15 yards further, and now I'm displaying a more athletic, a higher level of golf acumen, which just comes from putting some time in. This is something that all golfers can do. What I just displayed there's no reason why any of you can't do that, and that is 125, 130 yard 8 irons all day long. Now, as you get better, what you do is you start to create more of an awareness for stability, and then the club will come to life even more. It's almost like drawing a bow and arrow back further, drawing the string back further while you're still keeping the bow in position. It requires a higher level of golf acumen, but it creates an exponentially greater result in power. Now, this still is well within many of your acumen, but if you're older and you don't want to stress your body that much, you can just settle in where I just showed you at that level and play the greatest golf of your life. Now watch me here. This guy now has been practicing. He's getting up into here, but now the swing's getting a little bit longer while he's still able to stay still. And so now the club has a little more momentum, or quite a bit more momentum on it when it comes through. So now let's watch this guy. Now just so you know, that first golfer and that second golfer can easily be 6 handicaps. If they play the appropriate tees, there's no reason why they couldn't be 6 handicaps. Now this golfer here can also be a 6 handicap, but at a longer set of tees. From a more forward set of tees, this golfer here would probably be closer to a scratch. So now watch me. Still very rudimentary action here. Still the same setup position. But now I'm gonna let the swing get a little deeper on the backswing while I hold stillness, which is gonna create more of a dynamic result in the downswing. I'm stretching the rubber band back further, or the slingshot back further, or the catapult back further. So now I'm gonna have to support more momentum into the finish, which means my body's gonna come around a bit more in the finish. Sure enough, very similar looking shot, just greater distance. Now, that golfer's been practicing and getting better, starting to shoot scores in the low 70s, and they continue to progress. Now, same setup position, I'm gonna make the fullest backswing I can while keeping my weight planted on my lead side. Now, the resulting shot will be somewhere between 160 and 170. And we're not even done with the dynamic levels that this swing can produce. Sure enough, very similar shot, except for just growing up the evolutionary chart. Now, that golfer there is able to easily be a scratch from any set of tees, barring championship tees that are like PGA Tour length courses. Any set of tees up to 7,000 yards, that golfer can easily be a scratch. And from there, you can hit fades, you can change trajectory, you can do all kinds of fancy things. You could do that with the most rudimentary golfer swing. Remember, let's go back here. I'm gonna play the ball back in my stance. I'm gonna make the same swing. Remember how that person swung. The arm's actually chicken wing. Sure enough, you get a lower trajectory shot. You know, it doesn't have near the same dynamic capacity. If I did that with the next level up, see the lower trajectory, still get the same shape. You get to really be a maestro out there. You can hit a variety of shots. This most rudimentary golfer really shouldn't be hitting fades, but with that same skill set, you can pivot yourself around and hit little cuts like that. It's all in there. It's just a matter of where you find your ceiling.